goal was to bring progress and reform to clean up the abuses of the Gilded Age, which exploited the average citizen and consumer. To understand progressive objectives, we first have to look at the goals of the populist movement. Inspired by...
Okay, populism is number 12 on y'all's history term reviews, and then also this PowerPoint will cover the Progressive Era, which is the start of the next major era of American history.
Farmer organizations of the Granger movement, the Populists were a third party that looked to bring attention to new issues. At the Omaha platform of 1892, the Populists drew up their set of goals. To know what they wanted, let's look at the mnemonic device star 16. The Populists wanted direct election of senators, a graduated or progressive income tax where the more you make, the more the government takes, an Australian or secret ballot at the polls, railroad regulation, and most important to the Populists was the coinage of silver at a ratio of 16:1 with gold. Regarding the silver issue, the belief was that farmers suffering from low crop prices would benefit from higher prices if the money was worth less. Thus, inflation of crop prices would make a farmer's fixed mortgage easier to pay off. In 1896, the Populists and Democrats nominated William Jennings Bryan for president. He gave the famous Cross of Gold speech and advocated for bimetallism, or a combination of gold and silver in the currency. Bryan lost to Republican William McKinley. Though the Populists lost the presidency, many of their goals were met in the Progressive Era a decade later. Senators were directly elected because of the 17th Amendment, the graduated income tax was the 16th Amendment, Australian ballots became law around 1900, and the railroads became increasingly more regulated by the federal government. The 16:1 ratio of silver to gold never happened, though it was the most important issue to the Populists. During the Progressive Era, more government control was given to the people. Some states permitted initiative, or the right for the people to introduce legislation. Some states allowed the people to vote on certain bills with referendums. Also, some states allowed voters to remove incumbents, or those originally elected to office.
Okay, so an initiative would be like if a lot of people in an area think that something's important, they can start to, let's say that we live, let's say you want to legalize marijuana in this area. If you get enough petitions, people to sign your petition saying that they want that, it's an expression of democracy, okay? And so if it gets enough petitions, then it can become, put up for a vote, okay? A referendum is people vote on individual bills, okay? What we have in our government is that we elect officials who go and make decisions, and they vote how we think we would have voted if we were in that situation. But with a referendum, that's how Colorado and Oregon and these other states allowed legalization of marijuana, is that it was brought up on the actual ballot. And so when people voted not only for, I want to say in 2008 is when they started doing that. Obama in 2008, or maybe it was 12, but there was definitely on the same ballot, do you think marijuana should be legalized? And so that was just an example of a referendum. And then finally, a recall. If you think that your elected official, the mayor, the governor, the president, whoever, is just doing such a horrible job, again, you get enough people to sign a petition, and you can recall that person so they don't just because they suck. Because that happens a lot where senators are just doing their own thing, and they get reelected over and over and over again. Okay, so let's continue.
Called recall. In addition, the people had more of a say in how the presidential candidates were selected, as party primaries became prevalent. Writers known as muckrakers were investigative reporters looking to change society.
Okay, so a muckraker is someone who's going to write a book or newspaper articles talking bad about big business, but not making stuff up, being real and say, look, this is the situation, okay? But do businesses like that? No, they don't. They'd rather not have people looking in their business. It hurts their business.
He wrote The Jungle, which exposed how the meatpacking industry was unsafe for both workers and consumers. His book helped lead to the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act. The latter created the FDA, which today still makes sure that people consume safe products. Jacob Riis wrote How the Other Half Lived, which detailed the impoverished immigrants who lived in the overcrowded tenement dwellings.
A tenement dwelling is a multiple family apartment during urbanization. And so if you look in this picture, look how many people are in that area. And I want to say with that picture, I saw somewhere that there was actually like no power in that building. There's no power, there's no light, and so that's just the light from the flash. Okay, and so that's how those people lived. All right, and so this person is bringing to light, hey, look, Americans are living this way. Okay, do businesses like that? No, they want to keep doing their same old thing, and they don't care how the people live.
New York City. Ida B. Wells challenged Jim Crow laws and promoted anti-lynching legislation. Ida Tarbell wrote the history of the Standard Oil Company and gets some credit for breaking up that powerful oil trust. Lincoln Steffens' The Shame of the Cities displayed municipal or city corruption. A bit earlier, Helen Hunt Jackson wrote A Century of Dishonor to challenge U.S. treatment of Native Americans. Progressive leaders to know include Robert La Follette of Wisconsin in the Senate and Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson in the White House. President Roosevelt looked to break up bad trusts, yet permit good ones to persevere. He was nicknamed the Trust Buster, as his administration broke up the Northern Securities Company and Standard Oil. Roosevelt looked to give a square deal to the middle-class consumers, and shockingly, supported arbitration for coal miner strikers in 1902. Traditionally, presidents did not back workers. Here, TR did. He also supported the Elkins Act and Hepburn Act, which strengthened the Interstate Commerce Commission's ability to regulate unfair railroad practices. Roosevelt also supported conservation, or protecting nature, though he did personally kill a lot of animals. In the election of 1912, Woodrow Wilson was able to secure the White House after then-President Taft split the Republican vote with Teddy Roosevelt, who came back looking for a third term with the Bull Moose Party. For Woodrow.
Okay, I'm going to take the opportunity really quick to talk about a third party. Well, don't worry about it. It's in another video. But anyways, Woodrow Wilson's going to be the president during World War I. Woodrow Wilson, WW, World War I.
And you should know that the Underwood Tariff lowered tariffs, or taxes on imports for consumers. In addition, the Clayton Antitrust Act redefined and strengthened the vague Sherman Antitrust Act, which originally busted unions. The Federal Trade Commission looked to protect consumers from unfair business practices and from potential monopolies. And the Federal Reserve Act brought back a centralized banking system. Finally, during the Progressive Era, the temperance movement led to the 18th Amendment, which prohibited the sale and distribution of alcohol.
The temperance movement was a movement to make alcohol illegal. There was lots of different groups that wanted alcohol to be illegal. They would blame crime on alcohol. They'd blame domestic abuse on alcohol. They'd blame rape and all other kinds of problems on alcohol. And so there's a large movement to make alcohol illegal. That was called the temperance movement. And the 18th Amendment is going to make alcohol illegal. The period between the 18th Amendment and the 21st Amendment, when alcohol is legal again, is called Prohibition.
Women finally received suffrage or voting rights with the 19th Amendment in 1920.
Suffrage means the right to vote. Women couldn't vote until the 19th Amendment. So that means African Americans with the 15th Amendment, African American males were able to vote before white women, which is interesting.
All good things come to an end. After World War I broke out, the Bolshevik Revolution introduced communism to Russia. In the United States, a fear of communism swept over the nation. Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer's raids led to the arrest of some anarchists and labor leaders without due process consideration.
Okay, it went by really quick. But the fear of communism during the 1920s or during the early 1900s, and actually there was no such thing as communism until 1919, but that's known as the Red Scare.
Coincided with the end of progressivism. Here again are some important progressive reforms.
Okay, so that is the progressive era. You are able to look at this whenever you want now.